Before we start talking about how we customize the stream widget, we need to understand a few basic concepts about web pages, which are what browser sources are. Imagine a basic web page is like a cake. You have the actual cake and the frosting, and the cake, the HTML, is the foundation and the base for the frosting and the decorations, which is the CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets, which basically means that it's a file that styles your web page. So back to stream widgets and browser sources in OBS. You may have noticed a custom CSS section at the bottom of the properties tab for every browser source. This lets you style the browser source however you want. You just need to know what layers of the cake are called in order to decorate them individually. Now, I know the thought of coding is really scary for a lot of non-technical people, but I promise it's a lot more simple than you think. I'm going to show you the cheat code on how to find the layers of any cake, no matter your coding experience. Let's start with the basic Twitch follower/sub goal. This is on your Twitch dashboard, and I think a lot of people don't like how it looks and how constrained the color options are. For me personally, I don't like how dark mode changes the brightness of the accent color. What if I want the purple from light mode with a black background? I like that the basic Twitch goals update automatically when you reach the goal, but I don't like how they look, especially the grainy graphic next to the name of the goal. The good news is we can change this with CSS. Here's an example of the default Twitch widget straight from Twitch, and then the one I made with custom CSS. I'll have it in the bio if you want to copy it. You can see that the default one is kind of pixelated and will end up kind of blurry on your stream, while the custom one is a lot more sharp. That's because the default Twitch widget is constrained to 100 pixels by 500 pixels, which is tiny for a 1080p stream, let alone any higher resolution. My custom one is double that at 200 pixels by 1000 pixels, which you can resize in OBS to be whatever size you'll need, and it'll look way sharper. So here's how we do this. First, you go to your Twitch dashboard, then Stream Manager, then click Manage Goals. You can have a follower goal, sub goal, and a bit goal. You can change the color if you want, or you could just do it in CSS, doesn't really matter. Just go to the bottom and copy the link, and then open a new tab and paste that link. Please don't look at all my tabs. Now you should see your goal in the top left corner of your screen. Right-click anywhere and then click Inspect or Inspect Element. It kind of depends on what browser you're on. Now this scary looking code thing will come up at the bottom, but do not pay attention to that right now. All we need to focus on is the Style Editor tab here. Then click through the different tabs until you find the one that has the main meat of the CSS for the web page. Now this is a lot of trial and error, but luckily Inspect shows you what part of the web page you're editing when you hover over it. So go through the style editor list and hover over the sections, and if the area doesn't highlight, then your edits likely won't show up. Here I brought all the editable sections together so I can edit them easily. If you have no CSS knowledge, I recommend W3 Schools. They simply lay out every single CSS property that you can imagine and have a testing button so you can see how that actually affects things in real time. Experiment with it, it's super awesome. But if you're in a rush, color, background, border radius, margin, and padding accomplish most things you'll want to do. Otherwise, you can literally type into Google something like how to do gradient in CSS, and you will quickly find the answer, usually with W3 Schools. When using background or background color, I always use RGBA, which is red, green, blue, alpha. If you only know hex codes, there are lots of ways to get them in the RGB format, and then the alpha is just the opacity. So 0.5 alpha is just 50% opacity. This way, if you want to make the background or an element transparent, then you could just set the alpha to 0, which is what I did for this widget. I made the background and the heart graphic transparent and use padding and margins to move around the goal title to the front of the goal widget. If the things you want to edit are not in the style editor, then you would go into the Inspect tab and you can go down the tree of elements until the thing you want to edit is highlighted. Like this weird glitch I found with the Twitch widget, which makes it so even if you change the background color, there's a weird like white box that appears. I just went in and moved my mouse around until that section was highlighted, and then I added a transparent background element to that section. Once you're done making all your adjustments, copy the CSS you edited and just paste it into OBS custom CSS section. I usually leave the default code alone and just paste under that. Again, if you're confused, you can use my custom code for the Twitch default widget and edit it as you like, or study it to work on other widgets. Now that you know the basics, you can use this on any widget that is a browser source in OBS. Do you use stream elements for widgets? The same principles apply. Although stream elements widgets are usually made to be really customizable by the creator, sometimes they might not have a setting for everything you want to do. In that case, you can go into the editor and then the CSS tab and edit things from there and test the widget inside the stream elements testing window, which is a pretty nice feature. Lastly, if you're a fan of Nutty on Twitch and YouTube, you know he has a lot of widgets he gives out free and paid, which you can also edit. I love Nutty's widgets, but they often don't match the vibe of my stream, so I often edit them to match my color scheme and font better. He gives you some options, but let's say you want your chat messages to look like bubbles, we can pull the link into a new tab and inspect it. When I found the section I was looking for, I edited the border radius of the chat messages and added some padding and margins to give the bubble some space from the end of the messages. This is just a proof of concept. Sorry, I have no custom code for this one, but Nutty CSS is much more neat than Twitch's, so it's a lot easier to edit. I hope this helps. I love this stuff, and I feel like coding can be a fun and creative process if you give it a chance. If you're still confused, feel free to hit me up on Blue Sky, Instagram, or catch one of my streams. I stream Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. MDT. Bye!